And so, on this occasion, without taking much time, I am so happy to have the benign presence of our esteemed and most distinguished guest of this day, Mrs. Bindu Amat, to this platform to enlighten and to encourage the whole mass of the Vidyalaya, that is, the students, their parents, and the beloved teachers. Yes, madam, once again, I would like to extend a warm welcome from the core of my heart and on Vidyalaya, on behalf of the Vidyalaya. I take this opportunity to welcome you once again to this program, and I would like to uh, welcome the students, the teachers, and also all other stakeholders who are readily available to witness the program. So I take this opportunity once again to welcome you all. Yes, madam, please take over the session and inspire the audience. Before leaving, I would like to wish all the readers, all the people gathered here, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for good news resetting our lives. Thank you, and thanks a lot, madam. Welcome. Please, madam. Madam Bindu Amat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your inspiring words. Now, let me request Bindu ma'am with utmost gratitude and respect to lead the session. Ma'am, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rajesh sir. Thank you, Principal Chandran sir, for this opportunity. I'm indeed touched by your kind words. Let me thank the Vidyalaya, the principal, the teachers, including Rajesh KV sir and Mohammad Shafi sir, who have given me this opportunity to come back to the school and to give back whatever my wonderful alma mater has given me and continues to give me all these years. Thank you very much. I'm indeed humbled by your gracious words of welcome, your kind words. They touch me immensely. Well, welcome to the students who have gathered here and who have, set apart their vacations for this glorious occasion of World Book Day. When Mohammad Shafi sir invited me for this function, I had absolutely no hesitation in accepting the invitation, because any occasion to get back in touch with KV #1 Calicut is a golden opportunity for me. Moreover, this was a school that gave me the best years of life. This was the school that kindled in me the love for reading. I remember on this occasion, all those who have given me or gifted me with that love for reading. I remember my parents, who took the decision to send me to Kendriya Vidyalaya, the best school in the whole world. I remember my friends and my siblings with whom, we had that mutually enriching love for reading developed within the portals of the school. I also especially remember the former principal, Madam Vijayalakshmi, who, in spite of being a history and civics teacher, insisted that we read at least one book every day. It was she who actually kindled that love for reading in our young minds, and to deliver the goods, to ensure that we did get those books, best books. We had Sadi ma'am, the librarian of the school. It is with much fondness and respect that I remember them and thank them from the bottom of my heart for setting generations of students on the right track. Because there is nothing like the world of books to build up your future. That is a message that I would like to convey to the dear students today who have gathered to participate in this World Book Day online function. To begin that, allow me to make a presentation that I have made specially for you, dear students. Okay? I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so I had chosen to title this presentation as Books Beyond Barricades. That is the mantra that I have chosen for this World Book and Copyright Day on the 23rd of April, 2021. I told you about the teachers who, kindled in us the great love for reading. As I look back on the years that I spent there, the years that, like the students who are today with us, we spent in the school, I think I recall more than anything else a story that we had been taught in a Hindi textbook. I had chosen Hindi as one of the subjects for my +2 there. And in the Hindi core paper, we had a story by the Urdu writer Sadat Hasan Manto, Toba Takesing. More than everything else that I learned from school, I think it is this story that remains uppermost in my mind and which keeps coming back to me every now and then, as I will reveal to you during this session. Those of you who are familiar with Sadat Hasan Manto and his stories would be aware of the fact that he was an Indian who, like many others, were traumatized to forcefully move over to Pakistan when the subcontinent was partitioned. He was one of the casualties of partition, and most of his stories tell us about the trauma of partition. And this story, Toba Takesing, is one that is set right in the heart of partition. I have just put up a few images from that time when India was, or when Pakistan was created from India and was made to exist as a country on the other side of what was known then as the Radcliffe Line. And we know how it did not end with the drawing of that line. We know how it brought in its wake, how this event of partition brought in its wake days and months and years of pain, suffering, and great sorrow. People were transported with their properties, with whatever they could carry from this side of the border to the other. It carried with it tales of great terror and depression. And Manto, Sadat Hasan Manto, the sarcasm always at the tip of his pen, chose to write a story based on this event. He created this character, Toba Takesing, who is an inmate in a mental asylum. And the events in the story tell us how, along with all the Hindus who had to be transported from Pakistan to India, and all the Muslims who had to be transported from India to Pakistan, there was this issue of the mental asylum too. The people in the mental asylum also had to be divided on the basis of their religion. The Hindus had to be sent to India, and the Muslims, among the mentally ill patients, to be sent to Pakistan. And that was what traumatized this man, Toba Takesing. This is a story which has found its celluloid version on many occasions, the most recent one being the one made by Nandita Das, the filmmaker who calls the film Manto, and where this story plays a very significant role. This man is traumatized and he doesn't know what is to happen of him. You find him, blabbering nonsense throughout the story. Oh, paddi, gidi, angste vadyana, avde Pakistan, angde Toba Takesing. This is the kind of gibberish that Toba Takesing, this character, this nameless character. It is only because the word Toba Takesing keeps appearing in his gibberish that he is identified by that name. It's probably the village that he belonged to, Nobody knows where that was situated at that point of time, whether it was on this side or that side of the border. And as the truck comes to transport him to a new and uncertain future, you have Toba Tek Singh losing whatever consciousness he had in him and dropping down there right in the middle of the two borders. Pakistan on one side, Hindustan on the other side, and in between you have that no man's land. That is where this man falls down dead, raising a big question mark as to where he falls down dead. Is it in India or is it in Pakistan? And thereby raising also a big question mark about the efficacy of these border lines. Why do we erect borders? What purpose do these borders serve? How genuine, how justified are these borders? These are the questions that this story keeps throwing up. And these are the questions that take me back to the story every time I read reports about the pain and the torture and the trauma and the suffering that is caused by the n number of border walls erected in different parts of the world. I would like you to take a look at the next graphic, which is an image which tells you about the number of border lines erected in various parts of the world over the years. At the end of the Second World War, there were about 7 border walls across the world. By the year 1990, that 7 had gone up to 17. And today, in the year 2021, we have crossed the number of 77. These are the number of border lines, erected border fences in different parts of the world. I'm sure most of these are familiar to you. The red ones indicate the ones that are either already in existence or the ones that are planned, and the green ones are the ones that are proposed, which might come up in future. These are the man-made walls that we have erected, convincing ourselves or conveying to us the fact that we are different. On either side of the border, we belong to different categories. But a story like Toba Tek Singh is one that belies the efficacy of these border lines. It is one that reminds us, just like a novel like Shadow Lines written by Amitav Ghosh, that border lines are merely arbitrary lines. They're merely shadows. A border is simply an artificial line that is drawn by some selfish and narrow-minded interest. They are imaginary lines and mirages that lack substance. It is the same message that one gets when one reads a work from another part of the world, the South African writer Nadine Gordimer, a person who was very much affected by the South African policy of apartheid, of treating the blacks as inferior. And in story after story, she has gone back to this question of these border fences. I would particularly like to tell you of the story Once Upon a Time, in which you have a very rich white family settled in South Africa, which wanted to protect itself and its purity to such an extent that it erected these electric fences all around its estate so that the blacks would not encroach near their house, near their property. Unfortunately, what happens one day is the fact that their own little toddler once, during the course of his play, walks out right through the fences, and it is his electrocuted, charred body that this family is left with at the end of the story. A fairy tale, Once Upon a Time, begins with a fairy tale beginning. What this family thought would be a fairy tale existence for them turned out to be a nightmarish existence. It is the same question that comes up in my mind when I see the works of art drawn by painters like Lynn Onus. Lynn Onus is an Australian Aboriginal painter, who has painted pictures of the Australian landscape. And look at the way each one of his landscape paintings is marred by the vision of these fences. This is the fence that the white people in Australia erected in order to prevent the Aboriginals and their dogs. The dogs, they're known as dingo fences because they're meant to prevent the dogs of the Aboriginals from coming towards the white holdings, white land. And this is what happens. The beauty of the landscape marred by these kind of fences. So I want to tell you today about the way that books can enable you to erase these margins. Books can enable you to question the concrete monstrosity that is erected when you have borderlines like these erected in between countries, in between people, dividing people. Why can't we have borderlines like these in certain other parts of the world, which allow free transition, where you do not have one country fighting against the country, where you have people easily, casually, freely crossing over from Belgium to Netherlands and Netherlands to Belgium? This is the question that I think books enable us to ask. Because as I showed you, in that painting, in those books, in those instances and those stories, borders always bind you. They always limit your thinking. Borders create binaries, and binaries always exclude. When you have a fence erected, it always reminds you of this side and that side, the inside and the outside, the good and the bad, that which is acceptable and that which is not acceptable, the white and the black, the pure and the impure, the rich and the poor. That kind of binary thinking is something that books can enable you to erase, to question, because books, more than anything else, help you to broaden your horizon. Books open windows and doorways, which help you to include, not to exclude, but to include, not to divide, but to unify. Books enable you to traverse across borders and to embrace the far and the near. Look back to your days of early reading. Come to where you are now. You have traversed the greatest distances, from the days of the comic books to the days of the stories, the fairy tales, the stories narrated by your parents and your grandparents, the stories that you read in your books, the stories that you now read, the comics, whether it is anime, whether it is the Japanese anime, whether it is the phantom stories from the deep jungles of Africa, whether it is the Panchatantra stories or the Vikram Vetal stories or the Harry Potter stories or the European Tintin and his company or the American Little Women or the Greek Iliad and the Odyssey or Cinderella or Carnegie. The n number of characters, the n number of situations, the n number of places and characters and situations and stories that you have encountered all your years. I don't think you need a screen other than this to tell you about the breadth, the expanse that books can take you to. You may find it difficult to accustom yourself to the food, the lifestyle, the ways of life, the sports, the philosophy, the religion of different parts of the world. But you have absolutely no difficulty in reading and enjoying and getting transported to Japan, to Greece, to Mexico, to America, to Italy, to unknown regions like Hogwarts and to all kinds of fantastic lands. That is the kind of journey that books can take you to. Books have that unifying experience, and books enable you to see how it is important to have that vision of inclusion and not exclusion. Books enable you to question the creation of stereotypes. These fences, these walls, these border walls always create stereotypes. They create single stories. You are taught that this is good and that is bad. It is in the famous TED Talk delivered by the Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie that you realize how that kind of stereotyped thinking, that kind of single monologic thinking is indeed dangerous. As she delivers so beautifully in that speech, which was later made into a book, she says, the single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not just that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. It is when you restrict yourself behind a wall, restrict yourself behind a fence, that you think that your side of the story is the right side. That is when you find it difficult to accept a person on the other side as your brother, as part of your race, as part of your religion, as part of your whole being as human beings. The single story is indeed a dangerous thing. And what you need is a rejection of the single story. And of all the things that can help you to reject the single story and accept the multiplicity of stories, I think you don't need to go anywhere beyond books. As has been so beautifully illustrated to just give you one instance, the Arabian Nights, where you have Princess Shahzadi, who saved not just her life, but the life of countless others through her gift of storytelling. We know how this emperor took a wife every night and would chop her off once he had had his fill. But here was Princess Shahzadi, who stepped in and who held him spellbound. How? By telling him stories, by telling him about the strange, the beyond, the extraordinary things and places and people that he had never heard about. She enabled him to fly on a magic carpet and see the world in all its beauty. She enabled him to see a world where the borders have been erased. That is the power of storytelling. That is the power that books empower you with. That is the power that can erase stereotypes, erase the single story, and give you the beauty of multiplicity. Let me invite your attention to one more instance of the beauty of books. In the jungles of Madagascar, you have a scientist named Dr. Alison Jolly, who traveled from the United States, spent a good deal of her life in Madagascar, and did a lot of work on the primates in the jungles of Madagascar. It is because of her effort that the world got to know about endemic species of Madagascar like the lemur. But if today Madagascar is known as the eighth continent of the world, if today Madagascar has been able to retain its pristine forests and allow endemic species like the lemurs and other precious flora and fauna to survive, to create that beautiful island, it is mainly because, not because of her scientific work, not because of the experiments that she did there, but because of the books that she wrote for the children of Madagascar. Living in Madagascar, she realized that the children of that island hardly knew about the animals because they had no stories about their animals. The only stories that they heard were from their French schools, the schools set up by the French colonial establishment, where they learned about European plants, European animals, and they grew up with absolutely no connection with their own reality. To correct that wrong, you have Dr. Alison Jolly stepping down from her scientific work and taking time off to create these marvelous books for the Malagasy children of Madagascar. And she created a whole new mythology for them. She wrote about the ayais, she wrote about the lemurs, she wrote about the sifakas, she wrote about the indris and all those animals, and created a feeling of richness in the children, which enabled them to grow up and do everything possible to protect their island, to protect their flora and their fauna. I don't think you need a better story to tell you about the brilliance that books can achieve for you, which is why I'm absolutely in agreement with writers like Joyce Carol Oates, who says that reading is the sole means by which we slip, sometimes involuntarily, sometimes helplessly, into another's skin, another's voice, another's voice. A soul. Reading is something that can build in you the much needed empathy. It is what can enable you to have that broadness of vision, which can suppress and erase all those man-made divisions, walls, and fences that bring only ugliness to our world. As a writer, Anne Patchett has also said, reading fiction not only develops your imagination and creativity, it can take you far, it can give you visions of the unknown, but it also gives us the skills to be alone, to get the best out of yourself. It can give you moments of self-reflection that can enable you to come out with the best within you. It gives us the ability to feel empathy for people we've never met, living lives that we couldn't possibly experience for ourselves. It is then that you realize the pain of the person on the other side of the border. Books put us inside the character's skin. They build that much needed empathy in us and make us real human beings. On this International Book Day, I think we need to just look at the name of William Shakespeare, in whose honor probably the UNESCO decided to celebrate the 23rd of April, the day when he was born and the day when he died, as International Book Day. William Shakespeare, who has given so much to the world, who continues to give. You're familiar with the millions of stories that have been adapted from Shakespeare in different parts of the world, in their stories, in their theater, in their films, and so on, right down to the most recent example of George. But my question is it because it was William Shakespeare's birthday and death day that the 23rd of April was chosen as the World Book Day? Not really. It was, in fact, not only because of William Shakespeare, but mainly because of Cervantes, the Spanish writer, and also other writers like Garcilaso de la Vega, who was also born, who also died on this day. Now, this is just one instance of the choice of date for the World Book Day, I think, tells us again about the danger of the single story, the danger of believing that it is Shakespeare alone whose life needs to be celebrated. You have writers and writers, many of them who have contributed to the wonderful world of books and reading and literature and art. These three names are just three names who have contributed to that richness, who give us ample evidences through their works that art and literature, far more than anything else, are the most powerful weapons that we have. They bring back the message meaningfully of the old saying that the pen is mightier than the sword, because literature has the capacity to speak to power by speaking beyond it. It can develop in you the kind of critical thinking that enables you to question. They do this first by transforming you, by giving you a new vision, by giving you opportunities to think beyond your limited thinking. It enables you, literature enables you to resist, and resistance is most effective when it is transformative, when it takes the language of power and makes it work in the service of the voiceless and the powerless. So literature gives voice to the voiceless and power to the powerless. I will close my talk with this instance by taking you back to the gory situation that borders create for you, by taking you to one of the most dangerous places in the world. It is the borderline between the south and the north of Korea, a region where others do not even have access. People who belong to the same race, to the same generations, divided by the worst borderlines that have been erected, the one between North and South Korea. But in this very land, let me tell you about a beautiful story named Swiri. Swiri was a story written by a filmmaker named Kang Ji-gyo, who made a film, one of the blockbuster hits of Korea, Shiri in the rest of the world. In Korean, it is known as Swiri. It is a film that, it's an action-packed thriller. It is often considered as the the Sholay of Korea, if you would like to look at it that way. A blockbuster film, a masterpiece of a film. It is a film that invites your attention to this division that the Koreans have erected between themselves. It makes you ponder over that question of why do we have to divide ourselves into the northern and the southern Koreans. It is one that takes you to this land. This is the land that lies between the two Koreas. Beyond those borders that have been erected, you have this DMZ, the demilitarized zone, which is a kind of no man's land. Here are no borders. This is a land that neither the South Koreans nor the North Koreans would dare attack in the name of that wall. And this is a land that has become so rich, so abundant, so green, and so fruitful that it has brought back to life. It has brought back from the brink of extinction some of the most precious flora and fauna of the land. And which is why the film is called Swiri. Swiri is the name of a beautiful golden fish. Coriolanus splendidus, that is a scientific name of this fish. It is called Swiri in Korea, and this fish, which at one point of time was on the brink of extinction, today swims most abundantly, most gracefully, most beautifully in that demilitarized zone, telling you about the meaninglessness of those borders and the meaningfulness of the land that is beyond the borders, the Swiri. Which is why I would like to end with this message. Literature, through its capacity to imagine a different world of possibilities, has this utopian function. It can transport you to an utopia, give you visions of a possible new bright world. It can help you conceive of a world beyond conflict. Art and literature can transform power and imagine the future. I wish everyone here the very best. May the books you read give you these abundant tomorrows, give you golden soirees, and help you to echo the words of Chimamanda Adichie. When we reject the single story, when we realize that there is never a single story about any place, when we read books, we regain a kind of paradise. That is the paradise that I wish each one of you, dear readers, discover your paradise within the pages of the books. May your books help you to pull down all the barricades that divide you from others and help you to make a paradise of your life. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Bindu ma'am.
Yes, I think I will just stop the presentation. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patient listening.
Bindu ma'am, you have made me speechless, and you have transported me to a certain level, and I don't know where I am now. Yesterday night, I was just thinking in which way you were going to begin the speech, and I imagined minimum 10 to 15 ways. Sir,
Rajesh sir. Rajesh sir.
Sir.
It is not only Mr. Rajesh, not me, we all.
Sir.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Sir, ma'am, yesterday night I was just imagining in which way you were going to start your speech and you would continue this. And 10-15 different types I imagined. It is one of my hobbies. But you shattered all my dreams and imaginations, and you transported me to and all our this audience to a level that, and you have given us the assurance that reading habit we have to continue till the end of our life. Ma'am, the most vital issue which is discussed and debated nowadays in the world is the question of exclusion, and how to give voice to the voiceless. And even in Malayalam, ma'am, now we can see that Narayana Guru has come to prominence just because of one point, that is your consideration to the other. Aparan. That is, he considered that the other. And you have brought us back to that concept, the other, how we have to consider them and how we have to make a world without borders and mind without borders. Ma'am, this is the apt, best speech on the occasion of this world, this book day, and I salute you. I bow down in front of you for this mesmeric, fantastic, wonderful presentation. And you have this included art, film, all those things there, and all these things, as you told, weapons to transform us. And dear children, the first author which Madam told, this Sadat Hasan Manto, a very, very fantastic book. And this is the story, children, which Madam mentioned you. And fortunately, last week I was reading it for how many times, I don't know, fantastic. And those who are not having that English, that much this thing, and you can have that Malayalam translation of all his stories. So, ma'am, begin from there and entered in a paradise. Ma'am, very much thankful to you. And
Please, sir, let them interact. I would be very much delighted to hear from them. And thank you. You humble me beyond words with your very kind response. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah,
sir, ma'am, first student that is Devankita. Devankita is there in the meet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Devankita, you start.
Sir, currently more number of people have switched
Not to sir,
e-books.
to ma'am, Bindu ma'am.
Currently more number of people have switched to e-books. They prefer e-books more. So I'm not really comfortable with them, but I've got no choice. So are e-books really good as those printed books? And which one do you prefer and why?
Thank you for your question, Devangita. I think a very, very relevant question. Well, I think each person has his or her own way of reading. And it doesn't matter what device you use, what form you use, as long as you read. The times change and reading habits will also change. Ancient human beings, ancient man had the hieroglyph, the palimpsests, they would have the clay tablets on which they would depict their writings. That naturally changed with the invention of the papyrus and the book. And as Rajesh rightly pointed out, according to Dr. Nagesh, you can really divide the history of the world into the before book period and the after book period. But the book itself has never remained the same. According to changing times, you have new devices, new ways, new modes of reading. And I think, it's just a way of keeping pace with the times. I think living as we do in these days of the pandemic, we should really be thankful for all the advancements that human beings have made in the field of science and technology. This very conference would not have been possible had it not been for the technology of video conferencing. And I would therefore only see an e-book as one more development that we have created with our innovative skills, with our ability to think and to create new things. And I would never reject an e-book or a Kindle reader or an electronic device only because it is a mechanical thing and it does not have the feel of a book. A book is a book. I would any day go back to a book. The feel of the book in my hand is nothing. I mean, it cannot be compared to anything else. But at the same time, I would any day embrace a Kindle, a reader, or an e-book too, because as long as it can take me back to the world of reading, I really do not mind what the device is. So do not be bothered about the device, just read. That is the message that I would like to give you, Devankita.
Thank you, ma'am.
Joseph, Tom? Joseph,
Yes.
there in the meeting. Yes, Joseph, please ask, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Miss. I'm Joseph Tom, grandson of retired Professor Catherine Joseph. Yes, my question is that Devangita asked earlier that during these days to maintain reading habit or reading interest, what do you prefer, hard copy books or e-books, and why?
Okay, that already answers.
Thank you, Joseph, and I'm so delighted to meet the son of Tom and Spinny. My regards to your grandmom too. Well, as I told Devangita, it does not really matter. Reading is what matters, and we know that as challenges arise, we need to embrace new ways of living in the new normal, of finding the new normal. And these hard copies and these soft copies, they just enable us to shift from one realm to the other. As long as it does not kill the habit of reading, as long as we find new ways of adapting to the new norm, I think it's fine. So hard copy or soft copy, it does not matter as long as there is a copy there.
Thank you, madam.
Nada Fatima,
Yes, sir.
please.
Ma'am, according to you, what type of books should we read?
Thank you, Nada. That is a very difficult question to answer. Do you specifically mean a student of your age? Is that what you mean by what kind of books you should read?
Yes, ma'am.
Basically, I would like you to, explore on your own. The library in your school should definitely be a good starting point. And, look at what you have read all along and build up on that. What is the kind of book that you like reading the most? Nada, let me ask that question and answer it better by getting an answer from you. What are the kind of books that you like reading?
Ma'am, fictions, biographies,
Okay.
crime thrillers.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So, there is no end to the works of fiction, the works of crime thrillers, the works of biography that that we have in the world. The more you read, the more you will realize that border expands. So I really wouldn't like to be, in a position where I advise you as to what kind of books you should read. Try and find your own favorite kind of works. Explore. Do not let anything limit you. It's like asking a painter, what is the best means of painting? Is it watercolor? Is it oil painting? Is it crayons? Is it pencil sketching? The minute you tell somebody that you should only use watercolor, there is so much that he or she may lose out on. So keep exploring, keep reading, and I'm sure no restrictions should be imposed on what you would like to read. I would encourage you to continue to read works of fiction and works of biography and crime thrillers as they come to you. You are on the right track. What matters is that you read, keep reading, and you will find the immensity of that world. Nada. I hope I have answered you.
Children, there is one announcement. We have already sent one Google Sheet for you, feedback. Please don't forget to fill it after leaving the meeting. And next, Bharat Krishna. Bharat is there? Bharat Krishna? Okay, then Madhav Manu.
Good afternoon, madam. I'm Madhav, studying in class 10. And thank you for the amazing session that you just took before. It was really informative. And so my question is that I find these language subjects, mainly English, a bit difficult comparatively to maths and science. So can you give me some tips that would make English learning a bit funny and easy?
That's a very good question, Madhav Manu, and something that we keep encountering, because English, after all, is not our L1. It is not our first language. It is, a language that we learn as our foreign, as a foreign language. It is for us, EFL, English is a foreign language for us. But if you have difficulty in dealing with English, Madhav, you are not alone. You have hundreds and thousands of people all over the world who also struggle with the same problem. English, I think, is a language that today need not be considered as only the language of the English people. It is a kind of means, a tool for communication. And just as we devise ways of empowering ourselves and doing better with other systems of communication, like the telephone, for example. There was a time when only the landlines existed. The transition from the landline to the mobile phone was a big hurdle for people of my parents' generation. It was something that confounded them. For you, that is, unheard of, because you are already natives of the digital world, for whom the the land phone is the abnormal, isn't that so? And however, as as we progress, we learn to devise our own ways of handling this new technology. It is the same with language too. This is a language that is alien to us, but we come across situations in life where we have to use this for communication. And the more we use it, the better will we be able to handle it. The more we encounter good models that can help us, the better will we be able to use it for communication. So keep reading and keep listening to good models of English. Listening and reading, the L and the R, those two receptive skills can help you to come out with the productive skills of speaking and writing better. So keep reading, keep listening to good models of English, and you will definitely be able to speak better and to write better too. That is what I would like to tell you, Madhav.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful words.
Yes, madam, in between.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Just Madhav Manu just talked to you. He's a genius in mathematics. He's a score at the school level, cluster level, region level, national level, and even at the international level. He has participated in a number of maths competitions. So he is well versed and very confident in mathematics. I don't know this question, that is, he wants to be perfect in English also. Having attended your speech, you may have thought of this thing. Definitely, the interaction with you may enrich him in explore the world of language. That was encouraging.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm amazed. I'm really amazed by your achievements, Madhav. And
thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll make it. You'll make it big in life, as will everyone else here. I look forward to that day, and your school will definitely be proud of you.
Ma'am, second last, this Nanda Anil Kumar. Nanda?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm Nanda. I'm studying in class 10. So I basically have 3 questions to ask Bindu ma'am. I'm told that previously moral education was also imparted to students, but nowadays it is almost ignored. Don't you feel, ma'am, that moral education is necessary for keeping our culture valid?
Should I answer now or listen to the other questions also?
Yes, ma'am. It is up to you, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, I'll answer this. Moral, it goes without saying that we need, values to make us real human beings who can, help each other and build walls of loyalty and friendship and trust in the world, which is what the world needs. It goes without saying that we need moral values. But then it all depends on the way, you look at it. There would be some who feel that it has to be taught in school. It has to be made part of the curriculum. I myself believe that, the books that you read can give you the best moral lessons. It can enable you to, as I told you during the session, reach out and help you to think beyond your ego, beyond your selfishness, and embrace the rest of the world as part of just this entire universe. I think the values that books can give you, great books can give you, that would be impossible to match in any class on moral science per se. Yeah, but I do not deny the importance of moral values. They are important. It depends on the situation and the system that decides to implement it, either through classes or maybe find other ways of imparting it. There is no denying the value that morals have in our world.
Thank you, ma'am. And my second question is, ma'am, according to you, how is the pandemic adversely affecting the reading habits in children?
Yeah, reading habits in general. Is that the last part of the question?
the reading habits in children, ma'am.
In children. Okay. The pandemic. Okay. Well, I would say that I would like to believe that these days of the lockdown, these days of not being able to go out, have probably enabled the children to discover books more. They would probably have found time to read more. I think the person who has rekindled his or her interest for reading would probably be the person who has dealt with the pandemic in the best possible manner. Because the way the books can enable you to handle the stress, the trauma, and the alienation and the loneliness that a situation like the pandemic can bring to you. I think books definitely can enable you to tide over these difficult situations. So it may probably have brought a lull in the reading habits of a few people, some who probably would have taken more to gadgets and gadgetry and gaming and so on. But I think that it will, it's only, that is only a temporary diversion. The kind of company that books can give you, that reading can empower you with, that is unbeatable. And a person who has discovered that will definitely not turn back. I'm sure there will be more and more converts to that religion, the religion of reading. The pandemic can pose less and less problems the more and more you read and find solace in books.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And my third question is, ma'am, can you please recommend some novels which are worth reading and a book of grammar that will help me improve my English standards?
Yeah. A book of grammar, I would not recommend any book of grammar at all. But when you read good models of English, your grammar will improve naturally. The best kind of learning is that which is done unknowingly. Like the child, as soon as it is born from the mother's womb, it gains the first language. There is no provocation at all. It is not with any grammar book that a child learns its L1, its first language. It happens naturally. The more you listen, the better will you be able to communicate. And the same happens with a foreign language like English too. So no to grammar books. Grammar is something that you will be able to develop better. The more you read and the more you, even music, there have been many experiments conducted in different parts of the world which prove that music is probably one of the best ways in which you can learn a new language, right? Because you are learning the grammar, unknowingly learning. What is learned in pleasure is learned in full measure. What is learned with pleasure is learned in full measure. So read, listen to music. These are good samples of a new language that will enable you to learn that language better.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am, our last person, that is Abhinav P.
Please.
Abhinav, are you there in the meeting? Abhinav, not there in the meeting?
Ananda, you asked for a novel too. Tell me one novel that has interested you. Based on that, I would... Gone with the Wind. Oh, wonderful. That's a massive achievement at this age to have completed reading a big novel like Gone with the Wind is something, I'm
interested in Gone with the Wind and the series of Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, and thrillers like Sherlock Holmes, etc.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, I don't think you need any recommendation from me. That the love for reading that has been kindled by those books will naturally take you further and help you to discover more books.
Thank you, ma'am, so much.
Bindu ma'am, unfortunately that Abhinav is not there in the meeting. Yeah. So we are going to wind up. And from 11:15 to nearly 12:50, very sorry for these long. So really sorry, ma'am.
It was absolutely no problems. It was my delight. And if Nanda or the others, Devangita would like to contact me, you can collect the number from the librarian, and we can have a personal chat and discuss the kind of books that I would recommend you to read. Okay, so we can make use of the private chat for that. Right.
Principal sir, shall we wind up?
Okay, shall we ask one question on behalf of Abhinav P, who is absent?
Yes, sir.
Just heard about reading with the book, reading with the book, reading without a book, and reading beyond the book. The same way, teaching with the book, teaching without a book, teaching beyond a book. That is, can you put a few words about it? Yes, madam. So that children will understand something different. Yes, ma'am, please.
Yes. Teaching. Are you talking about the literal handling of the book, sir? Is that what you mean?
As you like. Let us hear something from you. Yes.
Okay. I think, in my mind, the best teacher is the one who enables the student to discover what is already in him or her. No teacher can give a student more than what the student himself or herself is capable of. The teacher can guide, the teacher can help the student to explore, the teacher can open new doors and windows, but it is all enshrined there. As Michelangelo so brilliantly put it, the teacher is like a sculptor who actually chisels away the rock and helps the beautifully burnished, polished marble to come out. That is what a student is. The more you read, the more you are in touch with teachers who guide you and inspire you to explore further, the more you are chipping away the unwanted rock and bringing out the polished marble statue from within yourself, sculpture from within yourself.